Hi, and welcome to part 2 of Engaging the Reader Using Leads. Today's lesson has 2 objectives. 1, review the 5 types of leads, and 2, see these leads in action, in literature and in informational text. So, as we go through the lesson, make sure you have your paper ready. Here we go. Now, if you remember, the 5 types of leads are listed on the screen there. Take a look at them and look at your notes and make sure that you know what kinds they are. If you've forgotten one, be sure to review the lesson before this, which is introducing the leads. Now, the important thing to remember about leads is that they always appear at the beginning of a text, and their purpose is to connect the reader and the writer. The writer is thinking about what the reader knows and trying to make the information presented interesting and that it makes sense and connects with what the reader had in his prior knowledge. So, knowing that, let's actually take a look at our first example. Okay, read over this lead from Perfect Madness, Motherhood in the Age of Anxiety. Pause the video and write down what you think the type of lead is that this exemplifies. All right, moving on to our next example. This is from John F. Kennedy's inaugural speech, because leads show up, like we said, in any kind of writing. So go ahead, pause the video, read it, and write down what you think it is. Next, we have A Wonderful Life by Stephen Jay Gould. Take a look at this, read the lead, write it down. Here is a rather lengthy one. You might want to expand the window a little bit if you can. Read this over and write on your paper what on Methuselah's trail, what kind of lead is used here. Here is our last example. Read it over and decide what kind of lead you think that Lincoln used in this speech. Now we're going to actually look at 2 articles from NPR, National Public Radio. They're online, they're fairly current. This first one, we're going to try to take a look at the lead for this. Here we go. How do oysters attach themselves to rocks? This is a type of lead. What type is it? Now we're going to go ahead and let this second article from NPR load. And while we're doing that, be aware that at the end of going through these 2 websites, we will be going over some of the information that you have learned today, and so that you can check your answers. So here we go. In the wake of the National Security Agency's cyber spying revelations, you may be worrying about the government keeping track of your digital life. But for less than $300, a group of ordinary hackers found a way to tap right into Verizon's cell phones. Dun dun dun! What kind of lead do you think that this is? All right. Now let's see if we can go back to our types of leads. And we're going to take a look and give the answers to at least these so that you have an idea about whether or not you're right. And tomorrow in class, we'll take a look at the NPR articles and decide. So here's our first one. If you read this over, it gives you something, a perspective you may have never thought of before. That if you've been told that all your choices are great, then it's your fault when things don't go wrong. But it might just be that the choices themselves are flawed, and in which case, it isn't your fault. That would be, dun dun dun, a startling fact. And our next one for our JFK speech, you'll notice that it's a list of questions, some of which, such as, will you join in that historic effort, he's not really expecting you to answer. Or at least you may think an answer, but you're not going to say it to him. So, that would be a question. Now we have our next one. This is a quote because it's a passage from the Bible. And now we have our vivid description where you can imagine driving down the highway. And last, this wonderful thing is an anecdote because it's a story that Lincoln told. And hopefully you did well on that, and I'll see you tomorrow.